Welcome back to Curivella. Tonight, we journey into the heart of an American legend, a man known only by a false name who executed the perfect crime in the skies and vanished forever. The year was 1971. The United States was a nation caught between Vietnam and the rising tide of counterculture. Yet, on the eve of Thanksgiving, a meticulously planned act of audacity would capture the public imagination like no other. We're talking about D.B. Cooper. He wasn't a bank robber. He was a skyjacker. He wasn't violent. He was chillingly calm. He didn't escape in a getaway car. He jumped out of a plane strapped with $200,000 in cold, hard cash into a freezing night sky and was never seen again. For 50 years, his identity has remained history's most baffling phantom. Was he a seasoned criminal, a disgruntled veteran, or just a desperate man with a brilliant plan? This is the full, atmospheric account of the only unsolved skyjacking in American history. Chapter 1. Northwest Orient Flight 305. The stage for this incredible story was set on Wednesday, November 24, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. A man purchased a one-way ticket from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. He used the name Dan Cooper. He was described as being in his mid-40s, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, a neat black tie, and a crisp white shirt. He wore a dark, nondescript overcoat and dark sunglasses. To the few passengers and the flight crew, he was just another businessman making a short, routine hop. He boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305, a Boeing 727, a tri-jet airliner known for its rear exit air stairs, a detail that would prove crucial. He took his seat, 18C, in the rear of the cabin. The flight was scheduled to last only 30 minutes. Shortly after takeoff, while the 727 cruised at 10,000 feet, Cooper signaled a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. He handed her a folded note. Florence, assuming it was just a lonely businessman offering his phone number, dropped it unread into her purse. Cooper calmly leaned in and said in a quiet, measured voice, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The air immediately changed. Florence, shaken but professional, retrieved the note. It was written in neat capital letters, detailing his demands with chilling clarity and instructing her to inform the pilot immediately. The note's demands were simple yet audacious: $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. Flight attendant Tina Mucklow was brought in to assist him. Cooper opened his briefcase just enough for her to see a complex arrangement of 8 red cylinders, dynamite, wired to a large battery. He was patient and articulate, explaining that his plan was not negotiable and that no one would be hurt if his demands were met. His professionalism was unnerving. He ordered the plane to circle the airport to buy the ground crew time to gather his ransom. Chapter 2. The Exchange at SeaTac. Word quickly reached the ground. The FBI and airport police scrambled, but they had one major disadvantage. Cooper had control of the aircraft, and they had to comply. For hours, the Boeing 727 circled Puget Sound while the ransom was assembled. Every one of the 10,000 $20 bills was checked and photographed, a crucial detail for tracking the money later. The 4 parachutes were sourced from a local jumping school. When the plane finally landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, SeaTac, the lights were dimmed. The FBI agents, disguised as airline personnel, approached the aircraft. The tense moments of the money and parachute exchange were conducted in silence. FBI agents handed over the goods through the forward cabin door, while Cooper remained in the rear, unseen by most. He maintained his composure throughout, ensuring his demands were fully met. The silence in the cabin was palpable, increasing the feeling of isolation and tension for the remaining crew. The passengers were released, but the flight crew, William Scott, First Officer Bob Ratzak, Flight Engineer H.E. Anderson, and Tina Mucklow were forced to remain. Cooper carefully counted the money, ensured the bills were genuine, and inspected the parachutes. He didn't select a standard military parachute, he chose a less sophisticated type. Importantly, he kept 2 parachutes for himself. With the ransom secured, Cooper ordered the plane to be refueled. But his final plan was only just beginning. Chapter 3: The Leap and the Vanishing Act. The second phase of the flight was perhaps the most unsettling. Cooper dictated a bizarre and highly specific flight path. He demanded the plane flies south towards Mexico City at the lowest speed and altitude, no higher than 10,000 feet. Most critically, he ordered the cabin to remain unpressurized and the famous rear air stairs to remain down. At 7:40 p.m., the 727 took off again, destined to Reno, Nevada, with just the 4 crew members and D.B. Cooper aboard. The night was pitch black, rainy and bitterly cold, hardly ideal jumping conditions. Cooper sent the flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, into the cockpit and ordered the crew to stay behind the locked door. The crew, following orders, kept an eye on their instruments. The decision to jump from a moving 727 at 10,000 feet into a stormy night was incredibly dangerous. The wind shear alone could tear a man apart, and the darkness guaranteed a landing in unknown territory. Around 8:13 p.m., somewhere over the dense, mountainous terrain of southwestern Washington, a warning light flashed in the cockpit. The rear air stairs had been lowered all the way. The crew felt a slight jolt. In the midst of a violent rainstorm, likely buffeted by 150-knot winds, D.B. Cooper had stepped out of the aircraft. He took $200,000 and the secret of his identity with him. The aircraft landed safely in Reno an hour later. The air stairs were up, the briefcase was gone, and the Phantom had disappeared into the vast wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. Chapter 4: The Investigation and the Money. The investigation, codenamed NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking, was immediate and massive. For months, the FBI, the military, and local police combed the dense forests and rivers below the flight path. They found nothing. No parachute, no body, no briefcase, no sign of Cooper. The general consensus among law enforcement was that Cooper, despite his careful planning, had likely died upon landing in the brutal conditions. The case remained cold, fading from the headlines but never from the FBI's active files. Then, 9 years later, in February 1980, the case took a sudden, stunning turn. A young boy named Brian Ingram was digging on a beach known as Tina Bar on the Columbia River, about 20 miles downstream from Cooper's probable jump site. He unearthed 3 decaying bundles of cash, $5,800 in $20 bills. The money was crucial evidence. The FBI confirmed it was the Cooper ransom by matching the serial numbers on the bills to their meticulous list. The condition of the money, heavily degraded and bound by brittle rubber bands, strongly suggested it had been deposited by the river, most likely sometime after 1974. The discovery forced the FBI to slightly adjust its probable jump zone calculations and provided undeniable proof that Cooper did make the leap and that the money had survived. The money, however, provided no new clues to Cooper's identity. It merely deepened the mystery. If the money made it, where was Cooper?
Chapter 5. The Suspects. The Endless Gallery of Faces. The mystery of D.B. Cooper is not just the story of a successful escape, it is the story of the many men who, over the past 5 decades, have been accused, investigated, and ultimately dismissed as the Phantom Skyjacker. The FBI, through its massive Norjack investigation, created a distinct profile. A man familiar with the Pacific Northwest, with some degree of aviation or skydiving knowledge, and an unwavering cool under pressure. Yet, despite thousands of leads, only a handful of individuals ever truly captured the attention of the authorities and the public imagination. One of the most immediate and intriguing parallels was drawn to Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. Just 5 months after Cooper's jump, McCoy executed an almost identical skyjacking. He was a Vietnam veteran, a former Green Beret, and a skilled parachutist. His background made him an almost perfect fit for the Cooper profile, but the FBI ultimately dismissed him as a very successful copycat, especially after McCoy's eventual dramatic escape from prison using a fake gun and his subsequent death in a shootout with FBI agents. Decades later, an alternative theory gained traction, centering on Kenneth Christensen. Christensen was a former Army paratrooper who worked for Northwest Orient Airlines as a purser and mechanic, giving him the insider knowledge required to understand the Boeing 727's unique features. Although his height and weight did not perfectly match the initial witness accounts, many amateur investigators view Christensen as the most logistically plausible suspect due to his intimate connection with the airline, a theory only brought forward by his brother after Christensen's death. Perhaps the most public and vigorously pursued suspect in recent years was Robert W. Rackstraw, Sr. Rackstraw was a former Army pilot and demolitions expert whose background was deeply entwined with military aviation. His supporters pointed to cryptic letters allegedly sent to investigators that contained coded messages referring to his military unit. Despite Rackstraw's skill set and ambiguous past, the FBI interviewed him multiple times and ultimately ruled him out, citing a lack of physical evidence linking him to the crime. A less conventional but highly detailed theory emerged focusing on L.D. Cooper, first name unknown, put forth by his niece Marla Cooper. L.D. Cooper was a veteran who had trained as a paratrooper and was a resident of Oregon. His niece recalled him showing up injured and covered in blood on Thanksgiving in 1971. Although the DNA evidence provided by the family was insufficient to provide a match to the limited samples recovered from Flight 305, the familial story provides a highly compelling narrative of a local criminal disappearing back into a seemingly normal existence. The paradox of the D.B. Cooper case is that we have so many plausible suspects, yet no concrete answer, leaving the identity of the skyjacker permanently cloaked in speculation. Chapter 6. The Crucial Evidence, the Tie, the Money, and the Forensic Gaps. Every crime, no matter how perfectly executed, leaves behind fragments. The D.B. Cooper case, though solved by the audacity of the skyjacker, remains defined by the few tantalizing pieces of evidence he left behind. The most significant and personal item D.B. Cooper abandoned was his black clip-on tie. Decades after the event, advanced forensic analysis of the tie's fabric revealed extraordinary chemical signatures. The analysis revealed particles of pure, unalloyed titanium and stainless steel alloys, along with traces of strontium sulfide. The combination of these rare elements pointed investigators towards a man who worked in or had routine exposure to a highly specialized field, potentially the aerospace industry, a specific chemical plant, or a metallurgical lab in the Pacific Northwest. This microscopic signature profoundly changed the suspect profile from a simple desperate man to a technically skilled insider. The ransom money was the most straightforward piece of evidence, yet it proved the most frustrating. The FBI meticulously photographed and recorded the serial number of every single one of the 10,000 $20 bills. Decades passed, and not a single identifiable bill was ever redeemed, used, or tracked back to the skyjacker, suggesting an excellent plan to launder the money, or more likely that Cooper died and the cash remained buried. The stagnation ended abruptly in February 1980 with the discovery at a Columbia River sandbar known as Tina Bar. 8-year-old Brian Ingram unearthed $5,800 of the ransom cash. The money's heavily degraded condition led to the science of forensic hydrology. Experts attempted to model how the money entered and traveled through the river system, eventually concluding that the money may have been deposited after 1974, forcing the FBI to slightly adjust its calculations for the probable jump zone. In the modern age of forensic science, the final hope for solving the case lies in DNA evidence. The FBI focused on the tie and the preserved cigarette butts Cooper smoked during the flight. While DNA was successfully extracted, it was heavily degraded and mixed with multiple profiles. A partial DNA profile was secured, but it was too incomplete to be uploaded into modern CODIS databases for a familial match. The evidence in the D.B. Cooper case tells a story of technological gaps. The tie, speaking the language of metallurgy in a 1970s investigation, the money, tracked by numbers but lost to hydrology, and the DNA, a potential key that arrived decades too late. Chapter 7. The Environmental Gauntlet. The jump's true danger. The act of skyjacking was only half the plan. The descent into the wilderness was a perilous gamble with forces far beyond human control. For the FBI and seasoned parachutist, the immediate assumption was that Cooper did not survive the leap given the utterly hostile environment he chose. Cooper jumped into a meteorological trap that greatly reduced his chances of survival. At 10,000 feet, the exterior temperature was near -7 degrees Celsius, 19 degrees Fahrenheit. His business suit offered virtually no insulation against the severe wind chill, risking immediate hypothermia. The visibility was near zero, a night jump with no moonlight, heavy cloud cover, and a torrential downpour. Most critically, the wind shear. The Boeing 727 was flying at approximately 285 miles per hour when Cooper jumped, exposing him to tremendous turbulent forces that could have caused immediate injury, disorientation, or even unconsciousness. The calculated jump zone was the rugged, uninhabited terrain of the Cascade Mountains, characterized by steep ravines, towering old-growth timber, and dense, thorny underbrush. Landing in the canopy of these Pacific Northwest forests means a fall of 50 to 100 feet after impact, resulting in severe bone fractures and internal injuries. The area is also crisscrossed by freezing tributaries and large reservoirs like Lake Merwin. Falling into one of these bodies of water, burdened with the heavy $200,000 bag, would have led to instantaneous drowning or rapid hypothermia. Cooper's actions on the aircraft suggest a man with some parachute knowledge, but his choice of equipment and methods revealed critical flaws. Cooper rejected 2 modern, functional military parachutes in favor of an older, non-steerable training parachute. Furthermore, one of the reserve parachutes he kept was later found to have been sewn shut, rendering it completely useless. The altitude choice of 10,000 feet also exposed him to maximum wind and freezing temperatures for a longer duration than necessary. When all factors, the hurricane-force winds, the freezing rain, the absolute darkness, the mountainous terrain, and the potentially flawed equipment are combined, the expert consensus, including that of the FBI, leaned heavily towards death on impact or rapid succumbing to the elements. The environment, more than any human investigator, remains D.B. Cooper's most formidable enemy. Chapter 8: The Enduring Legacy, Law, Media, and American Myth. D.B. Cooper's 45 Minutes of Terror created a ripple effect that reshaped air travel security, captivated filmmakers, and established a permanent niche in American folklore. The most immediate and tangible legacy was the swift mechanical reaction from the FAA. His escape method exploited a critical flaw in the Boeing 727. The FAA issued an airworthiness directive mandating the installation of the Cooper vane, or Cooper V, a mechanism that physically prevented the rear air stairs from being lowered while the aircraft was in flight. Beyond hardware, Cooper's crime cemented the era of rigorous airport security, leading to the full implementation of mandatory pre-boarding security screening shortly after 1972. The public response to the D.B. Cooper case was unique, bordering on romantic adoration.
He was perceived as cool, polite, and calculated, harming no one while taking the money and disappearing. In the midst of a disillusioned American public, Cooper became an unlikely anti-establishment folk hero, a modern-day Robin Hood who beat the system. His story was immediately adapted into popular culture, saturating books, films like The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, and numerous television references. The image of the man in the suit and tie became an iconic symbol of impossible escape. The FBI's official suspension of the active investigation in 2016 did not end the hunt. It merely transferred it to the general public. The case has found a permanent home in the digital age, creating a sprawling, dedicated community of citizen sleuths. These communities use modern techniques like geospatial analysis to run sophisticated computer simulations of the jump path and forensic genealogy to attempt to match the partial DNA profile to public databases. The enduring fascination with D.B. Cooper is fundamentally rooted in our human need for closure and the allure of the impossible. His story provides a stark, compelling narrative, a man who outsmarted the government, defied the laws of physics, and simply walked away. He remains the most enduring American mystery, a phantom of the skies who left behind nothing but a myth and a legacy of safety changes.
The mystery of D.B. Cooper is now your mystery to carry. Thank you for joining us on Curivella for this definitive look at the man who vanished into legend. Until next time, sleep well.